Precious was the only child of her parents, a miracle born after 15 long years of waiting and prayers. Her arrival had filled their once quiet home with laughter, love, and purpose. She grew up wrapped in warmth and affection. Her parents doted on her, granting her every desire. She lacked nothing, and in return, she gave them joy. By the time she gained admission into the university, Precious had blossomed into a stunning young woman, graceful, soft-spoken, and deeply sheltered. Having lived all her life at home under her parents' watchful eyes, stepping into campus life was like entering a new world. It was during her first year that she met Samuel. Samuel was in his final year, studying computer engineering. He was tall, confident, and always carried a calm, mature aura. From the moment they met, there was an instant connection. He treated her with kindness, often going out of his way to help her settle in. He listened when she spoke, gave sound advice, and quickly became a safe space in a campus full of strangers. After 6 months of close friendship, long evening walks, shared meals, and comforting phone calls, they started dating. But not everyone was pleased. One afternoon, as the girls sat at the hostel common room, Anita leaned in and said, "Precious, I know you won't like this, but please stay away from Samuel. I don't trust him. He's arrogant, and honestly, something about him doesn't sit right with me." Precious blinked. "Anita. I'm not trying to offend you," Anita added quickly. "I just think you should rethink this relationship." Before Precious could speak, Chioma, another of their close friends, cut in sharply. "Will you just shut up? You're an enemy of progress. Can't you see they're happy?" Anita folded her arms. "I'm not jealous. I'm just speaking from what I've observed." "Then keep your observations to yourself." Chioma snapped. "All right, that's enough," Precious said, raising her hand. "There's no need to fight. I appreciate both of you, but I know what I'm doing. If someone ever shows me a side I can't handle, I'll walk away." Life moved on. Samuel graduated a few months later. But the joy of finishing school was quickly overshadowed by the harsh reality of Nigeria's job market. Applications went unanswered. Interviews led nowhere. Still, Precious stood by him. She encouraged him, prayed with him, and even gave him part of her pocket money to support him. By the time she was in her 300 level, something changed. It started with dizziness. Then nausea. Then missed periods. At first, she thought it was stress. She bought some medication from a pharmacy and hoped it would pass. It didn't. A visit to the school health center confirmed her fears. She was pregnant. According to the university rules, pregnant girls were not allowed to stay in the hostel. Within days, Precious was given a notice to pack her things and leave. She cried bitterly as she folded her clothes into a small Gonomosgo bag. This wasn't how she planned her life. She had dreams. She had goals. But now everything felt like it was falling apart. In tears, she called Samuel. He didn't pick at first. When he finally answered, his voice was low. "I'm not around," he said. "But you can go to my place. You can stay there for now, and attend your classes from there." That night, Precious lay curled up on a strange mattress, in a house that didn't feel like home. She clutched the pillow tightly to her chest, trying to silence her sobs. Her thoughts drifted back to her mother's words she had once rolled her eyes at. "Stay away from boys, Precious. Focus on your studies, build your future. The right man will come when it's time." Now those words rang in her ears like a loud bell. She hadn't listened. She had followed her heart, blindly, foolishly, and now she had no one but herself. She had failed her parents. Failed their trust. Failed herself. She couldn't bring herself to call them. The shame was too much. The fear was worse. How could she tell them that their only child, their miracle, was now pregnant, abandoned, and homeless. She cried herself to sleep. The next morning, Anita came to check on her. She stood by the doorway, arms folded, eyes filled with pity. "Precious," she said gently, "you need to be strong. I know it hurts, but you can't go through this alone. Tell your parents. They love you. Let them help you." Precious said nothing. She just stared at the floor, tears brimming again. After Anita left, she sat on the edge of the bed for hours, phone in hand, staring at her mother's number, but she never called. Days turned into weeks. It had now been over a month since she moved into Samuel's apartment. He still hadn't come back. He hadn't called. His phone lines were off, and his social media had gone cold. It was as if he had vanished from the surface of the earth. That afternoon, Anita came again and found Precious sobbing uncontrollably. "I can't do this anymore," she cried, "I'm all alone. He's gone, and I don't know what to do." Anita hugged her tightly. "You're not alone," she whispered. "I'm here. And your parents, they're just one call away. Let them in, please." But Precious shook her head, trembling. "I can't. My dad has a heart condition. If I tell him, if something happens to him, I won't survive it." She buried her face in her palms, rocking slowly. The walls felt like they were closing in. The days were long, the nights even longer. She barely ate. Her body grew weak, and the pregnancy drained her further. 9 months dragged by like a lifetime. Then, one night, her water broke. Anita rushed her to the hospital. Precious was barely conscious. Her body, weak from stress and poor nutrition, couldn't handle the labor. After examining her, the doctor looked grave. "She can't push," he said. "Her strength is gone. We need to perform an emergency C-section. But we need a family member to sign the consent form." Anita was frozen. I'm just a friend. I can't sign." She looked at the frail girl lying on the hospital bed, the same girl she had begged over and over to inform her parents. Anita had no choice. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone and dialed Precious's mother. Anita's hands shook as she held the phone to her ear. "Mommy Precious, it's me, Anita," she said, voice trembling. "Please don't panic. Precious is in the hospital. She's in labor, but she's too weak to push. The doctors need someone to sign for a C-section." There was silence. Then a sharp gasp. "What?" Margaret screamed on the other end. "Labor. Pregnant." Her voice cracked as the truth sank in like ice through her spine. Anita heard her drop something, maybe a cup, maybe the phone, but she returned almost immediately, now weeping. "Give the phone to the doctor," she yelled. Anita did. "Please," Margaret pleaded with the doctor, "I'm her mother. I can't get there now. Let her friend sign on my behalf. Please save my child." The doctor hesitated for a moment, then agreed. As the call ended, Margaret stood frozen in her living room, still processing everything. Her only child, her miracle baby, was fighting for her life in a hospital bed, pregnant and alone. Just then, her husband, Chief Andrew, walked in, holding a bottle of water. "Margie, what is it? You're crying, what's going on?" She turned to him with eyes wide in shock, heart pounding wildly. "Andrew, it's Precious, she's in labor. She's been pregnant all this while. Anita just called, they're about to operate on her." He blinked once. Twice. Then his hand dropped the bottle. His eyes rolled. And before she could say another word, he collapsed right there on the floor. "Andrew," she screamed. Neighbors rushed in at the sound of her cries. They helped lift him into a car and rushed him to the nearest hospital. But it was too late. Chief Andrew was declared dead on arrival, a heart failure triggered by shock. Back at home, Margaret sat stiffly in the living room, phone clutched in her hands. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't speak. Her world, once so full of pride, dignity, and joy, had shattered in the span of minutes. Her only child was on the verge of death. Her husband was gone. Before the doctor could return with updates about her daughter, Margaret slumped to the floor and fainted. She, too, had to be rushed to the hospital. When Margaret arrived at the hospital, she had to be wheeled in. The doctors ran tests immediately. The diagnosis was clear and devastating: she had suffered a stroke. The stroke had affected the right side of her body. The doctors warned that she might never walk again. Her siblings and extended family rallied around her, taking turns at the hospital to bathe, feed, and attend to her. In her confused state, she kept mumbling her husband's name, unaware that he was gone. Meanwhile, Precious remained in the same hospital, alone in a ward with her newborn baby and a pending hospital bill. The operation had been successful, but she wasn't discharged due to lack of funds. Days turned into weeks. Anita, ever faithful, did all she could. She begged. She called friends. She even sold some of her belongings. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't raise the full amount. Then one day, hope walked in. An NGO had visited the hospital to help patients with unpaid bills. After hearing Precious's story, they agreed to clear her hospital debt. A nurse came to her bedside with tears in her eyes and whispered, "You're going home." But where was home? When she returned to Samuel's apartment, all she found was a quick notice pinned to the door. The rent had expired long ago. Samuel was still missing, his phone unreachable, his social media silent. She knocked on neighbors' doors. No one had seen him. It was as if he never existed. Precious quietly gathered her few belongings, baby clothes, a wrapper, some books, and strapped her newborn to her back. With no place to go, she found an incomplete building nearby and stayed there for 3 nights. The cold beat her bones. Mosquitoes feasted on her and her child. But she didn't cry anymore. Her tears had dried up. All that remained was survival. On the 4th day, she met a woman selling local drinks who told her about a vacant room in a rundown part of town. The area was dirty, noisy, and reeked of sewage, but it had a roof. Precious took it. She couldn't go home. She couldn't face her paralyzed mother. She couldn't face the absence of her father. She couldn't face the shame. So she stayed. Life took on a new rhythm. Every morning, Precious tied her baby on her back, carried her goods on her head, sachet water, cold drinks, zobo, fried snacks, and walked under the hot sun, calling out to strangers to buy from her. No one knew she was once a university student. No one knew she once dreamt of becoming a journalist. No one knew she once had a family, a home, a life. Now, Anita had graduated and returned to her home state. The calls reduced, then stopped altogether. Precious understood. Life moves on for everyone. But hers had paused. Alone in that little room, with a baby who had no father, and a future filled with uncertainty, she whispered every night, "God, are you still there?" Precious was no longer the bright-eyed girl she once was. The mirror told the truth daily: dark circles under tired eyes, cracked lips, dry skin, and shoulders weighed down by life. She had aged far beyond her years. Pain had become a constant companion. But nothing prepared her for the moment she nearly lost her child. Her son, barely 2, grew thin. His stomach bloated while his arms turned to sticks. He stopped laughing. He stopped responding to her voice. He lay on the mat day and night, weak and fading. Malnutrition. Precious did all she could. She begged, borrowed, and prayed. But her strength and capital were gone. Her goods were sold off during her desperate attempts to buy medicine, pap, milk, anything to keep her baby alive. She sat beside him, helpless, watching him with hollow eyes. God, please don't take him from me too. He's all I have. That afternoon, a gentle knock came at the door. It was Mama Esther, the woman Precious usually bought drinks from. She stepped inside and gasped at the sight of the little boy. Without asking any questions, she went straight home. That night, she returned with a steaming bowl of vegetable soup, rich with ugu leaves, palm oil, meat, and crayfish. She fed Precious. Then the baby. She didn't leave until she was sure the child had swallowed something solid. And she didn't stop there. She began cooking more, bringing fruits and medicines. She even offered to supply drinks to Precious on credit so she could start her petty trade again. Sell fast, pay me later, she said. Just take care of yourself and this boy. With trembling hands and a grateful heart, Precious accepted. Slowly, she picked up the broken pieces again. She started selling once more. She began to smile, not because life was perfect, but because it wasn't killing her anymore. Her son gained weight, and his laughter returned. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into years. For long years of pain, sorrow, loneliness, and survival. One quiet evening, just before sunset, Precious sat on a low stool inside her room, peeling egusi seeds. Her son was outside playing with a stick and some empty bottles. A soft breeze blew through the open window, carrying with it the scent of dust and fried akara. Then, a knock. She paused. She wasn't expecting anyone. Mama Esther usually called first. The woman next door was out of town. Maybe it was a stranger. The knock came again. She wiped her hands, walked to the door, and slowly pulled it open. Her heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. There, standing in the doorway, dressed in a clean shirt and jeans, holding a small duffel bag, looking older, more muscular, but still familiar, was Samuel. For a long moment, no one spoke. Precious stared at him like a ghost. Her mind raced. Her heart pounded. The knife in her hand almost slipped. Samuel's lips parted slowly. Precious. Precious stood at the door, frozen. Her chest rose and fell with shallow, quick breaths. The knife she had used to peel the melon seeds was still in her hand, but her fingers had gone numb. Precious, Samuel said softly, his voice almost unfamiliar. She didn't respond. She stared at him like a ghost. The last person she ever expected to see again, not after all these years. Not after what he had done. Samuel stood at the door, holding a bouquet of roses and a small toy car in a gift bag. He had rehearsed 1,000 apologies, yet now that he was in front of Precious, none of the words seemed enough. Precious stood rooted to the floor. Her eyes scanned him from head to toe, clean-cut, well-fed, with an air of comfort. He looked nothing like the boy who had left her to face shame and hardship alone. Her hands trembled slightly, melon peels still clinging to her fingers. "Ah, Precious," he said, his voice low and unsure. She didn't say a word. Instead, she slowly closed the door. Samuel didn't knock again. He quietly walked away. But he came back the next day. And the day after that. Every evening, she would hear a knock, and each time, she would ignore it. But he kept showing up. Sometimes he left food at the doorstep, other times small gifts or handwritten letters. Then one afternoon, Anita showed up unannounced. "Precious, he's not the same person. He's been looking for you since he got back. He went to your mother's old house, your former workplace, everywhere. He left me, Anita. When I needed him most." Precious' voice cracked. "I know. But he was scared and stupid. Now he's here, with money, yes, but more importantly, with remorse. Deep, honest remorse." Precious said nothing. She didn't cry. She just sat there, watching her son sleep on the mat, his tiny chest rising and falling. Weeks passed. Samoa continued coming. One day, her son, now 4 years old, walked up to her and asked innocently, "Mommy, who is the man that always knocks and smiles when he sees me from the window?" That question pierced her heart. That night, she sat by the window and read all the letters Samoa had left, over 30 of them. Some were messy with tear stains. Others had scribbled thoughts like, "I was a coward," and "every night I pray for forgiveness I may never deserve." The following Sunday, she did something different. When she heard the familiar knock, she opened the door. Samoa stood there, surprised, holding nothing for the first time. "You have one chance, Samoa," she said coldly. "Not to win me back, but to earn the right to be a father." Samoa's eyes filled with tears. He nodded, unable to speak. Over the next few weeks, things slowly shifted. Samoa began visiting during the day. He helped cook, played with his son, and even accompanied them to the local clinic for checkups. The boy took to him easily, laughter returned to the home, cautiously but surely. Precious remained guarded. She watched him carefully, testing him without words. But Samoa didn't falter. He was patient, consistent, humble. One evening, as they sat on a bench outside the house watching the sunset, Precious finally spoke. "I don't know if I'll ever love you again. But I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." "Thank you," he whispered. "That's more than I could ever ask." They didn't become husband and wife again, but they became partners in parenting. At first, everything felt awkward. Samuel, once so confident, was now overly cautious, afraid to discipline the boy, unsure how to even hold him sometimes. He would bring gifts, thinking that was enough, but Precious had to sit him down one day. "He doesn't need toys, Samuel. He needs time. He needs presence. He needs you to show up, not just physically, but emotionally." Samuel listened, and for the first time, he didn't defend himself. Instead, he asked, "Teach me. I was never fathered. I don't even know what being one looks like." Precious nodded. "Then learn, for his sake." Slowly, a different version of Samuel began to emerge. He started attending parents' meetings at the boys' school. He would volunteer to walk him home when Precious had to work late. Sometimes, he would just show up with groceries or offer to sweep the compound without saying much. Neighbors began to notice. The prodigal has changed, oh," Mama Nkechi once muttered as she walked past them on a Saturday morning. Even Precious began to soften, not out of love, but out of respect. He was trying. Not perfect, but present. Then came the turning point. One afternoon, Precious fell ill. It started with fatigue, then body weakness, then full-blown fever. She was too weak to get out of bed. Samuel arrived unannounced that day and found the boy trying to use a mop to clean spilled pap from the kitchen floor. He rushed in, cleaned the house, bought drugs, made food, and sat by her bedside for 2 days straight, sleeping on a mat on the floor. When she finally opened her eyes after hours of rest, he was still there, holding her hand. "You could have just dropped money and gone," she whispered weakly. "Not this time," he said. "I'm not leaving again." Months passed. Their son turned 5. They planned a simple birthday party, just a few classmates, snacks, and music. But for the boy, it meant everything. He had his mother and father sitting side by side, smiling, a sight he had never known. As he blew out the candles, he whispered, "I wish we could always be like this." That night, after guests had left and the house was quiet, Precious and Samuel sat outside once more, beneath the stars. "Are we doing this again?" he asked cautiously. "Doing what?" she replied. "Trying to build, whatever this is." Precious thought for a moment. "We are building something. Maybe not love the way it was before, But something more honest. He nodded. Then I keep showing up. Every day. Even if I never get you back, I keep showing up, for you, for him, for me. Years later. Samoa opened a small logistics company and employed 2 young boys he had once mentored. Precious went back to school and earned a diploma in social work. She now helps single mothers find strength and support. Their son, now in secondary school, is known as the boy with 2 strong parents. They never remarried, but they became something rarer, a family that rose from ruin to healing. Moral of the story. Sometimes, life breaks us in ways we never imagined, through betrayal, heartbreak, or abandonment. But brokenness is not the end. Precious was left to carry the weight of motherhood alone, but she rose with strength and dignity. Samoa failed, but he returned with remorse and chose to rebuild, step by step. This story reminds us that being broken doesn't mean being useless. Healing is possible, but it takes time, humility, and effort. Single mothers are warriors. True fatherhood is not just about giving life, but showing up for it. Second chances don't always fix the past, but they can shape a better future. Above all, you may be broken, but you are not defeated. What are your thoughts about this story? For more stories like this, subscribe, like and drop a comment. Till I drop the next story, stay safe.